So now what I want to do is I'm just going to click on face selection, Alt H to unhide everything. I'm going to paint the bottom of the car, and since we have it already set up as an island with all the seams that we did, we can just select one of the faces, hover over one of the other ones, press L, and that's going to give us the entire bottom of the car. And now I'm going to go to Tools and select this darker color. If you want it to actually be pure black, you can just drag this down till it's pure black. And I'm going to press Shift H to hide everything else. And we're just going to color the bottom to make it a nice black color. You could add more details to the bottom. Some people do. You would have to actually paint them on yourself since we didn't model anything on the bottom. It's not really something I'm the best at, so I'm not really gonna show you how to do it because, to be honest, I don't really have any experience with that. So now we're gonna press Alt H and unhide the rest of the car. And real quick before we continue, I'm just going to turn on the other screencast keys that I have, because as I said before, this one down here likes to stop working, so at least we have this one over here in case things don't go things don't go as planned. Okay, so for next we're gonna make this window. So we want it to be basically a darker color here, and then where the actual window is, or the part that you can see out of, it'll be a lighter grayer color. And we also want that sort of, not really silver, but aluminum, I guess, whatever this is made out of, this gray color as well. So we're gonna select one of these things, press L to select all of it, and don't forget that we have this whole part here is also separate, so we have to press L to select that as well, and then press Shift H to hide everything else. And I don't want to use this color, and I don't want to use any of the others that we have. I actually want to use something that's in between these two colors here, basically. So I'm going to select this first one that we had, drag it down a little, and just start painting. We're just going to cover the whole thing at first, and then we're going to go back through and change the rest of these pieces to be the appropriate color. So one thing you'll notice on my model, and you may have the same thing as well, is that we have these white dots here, and I'll explain that in a second. Basically what it means is the texture is not really being read properly, basically, and we need to make the texture over here do what they call bleeding. It needs to bleed a little bit further beyond where the UV unwrap is, and I'll show you that in a second. First, I just want to paint the rest of this right here, and then we'll go over what I'm talking about and how you can fix it. It's actually a really common problem, especially in the center of the car, because this is where we mirrored the car, and it's very common. I've had this happen on a lot of my models, so just be aware that the center of the car oftentimes is going to have this effect where you seem like you can't paint on the very center of the car. It's just like you have this white or whatever colors beneath it is just It's not going away even though you're painting over it. So to fix that, you want to go over here in this part, and we're going to hold our middle mouse and drag and change this from view to paint. And basically you have to find where this is on your UV map over here. And this piece is actually right here. And then what you want to do is figure out which edge this is right here. This is our center line. So if we're looking at this, we have these holes right here, and those are right here on our UV unwrap. So this would be the center line, which would be right here because it's opposite of the side that has the holes on it. So what we want to do is, like I said, make it bleed a little more, and all I mean is usually the color is constrained to the, like, this face here. The color is basically painted within this face, and we want to paint slightly outside of it in order to get rid of this white color that's in the center. So if you want to make your brush a little smaller to do this, you can press F while you're over here to adjust the size of it. I'm going to make it a little smaller. As an alternative, you could just change the radius right here, of course. And all we want to do is very carefully paint along this edge, making sure that the color extends a little past where this white edge line is. So you want the color to be slightly past. I know it's hard to see because it's a dark color on a relatively dark background, but that's exactly what you want to do, is make sure it goes a little bit beyond where that edge is. Just be careful not to paint on any other parts of the car, because that will add the color to that part of the car, and that's not what we want. So now that we're done with that, you can see that the white dots that were here are now gone. So just remember that trick. If you're ever having that problem, just add a little bleed on the outside where the edge is. And another thing I noticed earlier, let me turn this off real quick, the face select. You see how we have this white? And that's not because we haven't painted this part of the car. It's actually because this this part that goes around it is not completely snug with the window piece itself. So we're going to have to go to edit mode real quick. So change this to edit mode. And you can see if I just select this face, like we can see there's an extra vertex here on the window itself, but there's nothing here for this edge. So we're going to have to add one, and actually, since it's no longer mirrored, we're going to have to do it on both sides. So we're just going to press Control R, left click, and then drag it into place so it's basically lining up. And then left click again, switch to vertex select, select this vertex, drag it on the Z-axis, hold Control, and snap it to the vertex that's on top. And then repeat the process for the other side, because remember, it's no longer mirrored. So we have to make sure we do this to both sides. It's Control R, click, drag, left click again, click on this vertex, drag it on the Z, and then you should be all set. I just pressed tab to get back to object mode to look at it. And now I'm going to go to texture paint. And it looks like everything is relatively okay. We still have some more white stuff there. But this is actually a texture problem. It's really jagged right here. And again, to fix this, it's going to be the same process. It's going to be adding some bleed to that area. Part of the problem, like when it's all jagged like this, is that it's just, there's not a lot of texture space. This is our that outer piece I'm talking about, this long skinny thing, and it's not using very much texture space. So part of the problem is just that it's not using much texture space, and it's really difficult for the program to paint on it. So we're just going to have to zoom in. You can make the brush a bit smaller by pressing F. And I'm going to basically paint on the center and make sure my brush is a little bit bigger so it's sticking out on both sides. And it will paint a little bit of bleed onto this part, and you can see now I'm painting over that part that has a problem. Slowly over here that white just disappeared. So we're just going to continue along the whole thing until you've got the whole thing with a little bit of extra bleed space. And again, just be careful not to paint on, for example, this area. You know, try to avoid it as best you can. You can always go back later and fix the problem, but it's better to avoid it in the first place. So if you do make a mistake while you're painting, you can always use Control Z. That will undo your last paint stroke. And a paint stroke is from the point you click your mouse and hold it until the point you let go. So anything you've done during that time will get completely undone. Just keep that in mind. So now we have that piece completed. Now we're going to need to add in this gray part as well as the window itself. This window is pretty simple. It's actually basically rectangular. So we're going to need a new color though. But before we do that, let's save this one. Click the plus button, that'll save it. And I'm not really sure what color I want to use, so I'm just gonna... You can always test these colors and see, like, you know, ask yourself, do you like this color, for example? And that doesn't look too bad, actually, looking at it. I mean, we could go a little darker, maybe. Something in between these two, I think. I'm going to Control Z and undo this. This is just basically a test for me. I'm trying to find a color I like. So I'm not actually going to... None of this is going to be saved right now. I'm going to Control Z it until I find something I'm happy with. And that looks pretty decent. I'm not sure if I like the lighter one better though, just because it sticks out more even though it's not really sticking out in the real picture. I just kind of like it, so maybe I'll stick with this for now. So it goes basically to the top. I know it's hard to see, but it doesn't. The window itself doesn't go all the way to the end of this whatever piece, this glass piece, I guess. It goes almost to the top, but not quite, and it curves at the top, and then it goes basically straight down and has a small curve at the bottom. And again, it doesn't go all the way down. And I didn't even notice, actually, there's a McLaren logo right here. We could add that, but it's really the same process as this, so maybe I'll add that later. It's pretty simple to add, but I didn't actually notice that until now. So we'll have to do this. There's a couple ways to do windows. One is simply to paint it like we just did. That's a really simple and basic way to paint it. But a better way to do windows in most cases, just make sure your thing is selected, is to go down here and we have our stroke method. Currently it's on space. We can change this to curve and I'll show you what happens, but first we want to go to top view by pressing 7 on the number pad. It kind of flips our view around a little, so just be aware that it's been a little while since I used this curve thing, so I'm gonna have to actually try to remember, but I think you hold control and then left click, yep, to add a point. See this weirdo point here? And then you do the same, like down here, you hold control and left click again, and that'll give you another control point, I guess they're called. And I just want to make sure, like this, okay, this basically stops just below where this part is. So I want to make sure this probably goes a little farther. And to move these points when you have them selected, you press G. And this is actually not the point itself, this is one of the handles. A lot of times these get in the way, so I'm just going to move it out of the way. And then left click, grab a different handle, press G. And move it further out like this. See, this is the actual thing itself, the actual line itself. These are the handles that adjust the curve, and you'll see, you can see what this one does, how it's adjusting the curve of this part here. But we want this basically to be straight, so we're just going to put this back on top as well as this one. And then we're going to do another curve point in the center, I suppose, or we can probably just go all the way across, I guess. So hold control, left click, and continue holding control, left click here. We're going to make basically a square. And then hold control and left click again back at the beginning. It's not going to make an actual connection. There's going to be 2 points here, but that's fine. So now that we have our square, we want to make these curves. Like at the bottom, it needs to be curved down a little. And actually, this is actually pretty far off. Like this is supposed to go almost to the bottom of this part. So these should be further down actually. So I'm just going to press G until I get the correct point and move these back down. Right click to select them, press G to move them. So that's relatively where I want it, I guess. And now we can start playing with the handles. You can see what they do, how we can get this curve going right here to make it better, closer to what it should be. And then you can do the same at the top. I don't really want to move that handle, but it's the only one it's giving me. And I'm having trouble getting the other handle, so I'll see if I can get this one to work. Alright, here we go. I got this handle. I'm just going to curve it slightly and then move this back into position and move this back into position. So the good thing about this is you can create your border very easily, and you can also change the color of it, and I'll show you. It's important to choose the correct radius. I mean, I usually use like 4 pixels or 3 pixels, maybe sometimes 5 for a window outline. I think in this case I'm going to just see what 4 looks like. And then when you are happy with your color, your radius, so make sure you have this color, the radius of 4, stroke methods on curve. Now what we're going to do is click draw curve. And we can see what that does. So we have a little extra stuff we're going to have to fix right here on this bottom part. So we can just Control Z to undo the drawing. So we're going to have to bring this down so that it doesn't bleed over the edge like it did. And click draw curve again. So now it's all nice and smooth. So the benefit of this, like I said, is you can adjust the color if you wanted to adjust the color. And you could adjust the radius, for example, just to show you. And you can use this curve over and over again. But one thing to be careful with is your view matters. Like if you zoom in a little more, it's going to give you a different result. If I do draw a curve, you'll see it's now drawing it closer in. So your view actually makes a big difference. So you have to be really careful. So I'm going to go back to the original color. I just did Control Z to undo that and the original radius of 4. Draw a curve. And then what you do from here is you go back to stroke, or not stroke, space. Keep the same color in this case. Make your brush a bit bigger by pressing F or using the radius here. And then you want to fill in all the space between, like any space that's not that color already. You just want to start filling everything in. And you can make the brush bigger for the inner part just because you don't need to have as much control, because it can be kind of hard to stay within the lines on the edges. So a smaller brush will help you on the edges. And a lot of people for texturing, they'll use a tablet. I actually don't have a tablet. I'm just using a mouse for this. So if you only have a mouse, no problem. See, we had a little extra overlap there. It kind of went past the edge. So I'm going to Control Z a few times to get rid of that. You just have to be careful not to do that because it just makes your paint job look not so nice. You have to be really careful. So there's that part. I think that looks pretty nice. The window's probably a little bigger than like the real thing, but that's fine for now. Maybe I'll change it later. But now we have this other part to deal with, this silverish part. So I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. And this time we're actually going to use the line stroke method. So switch this to line. And I'm going to change the pixel size to maybe 4 or 5. I think I'll just try 5 for now. And go back to top view by pressing 7 on the number pad. And go back to face select mode. And just select one of these faces and press L to select the rest. So this silver part starts a little bit to the right of the opening, the hole. And it ends, of course, a bit below. And this part right here is a little closer to the hole, and this part down here is a little further away. So you just want to be careful with that. So we're just going to basically click right here, left click, drag. It ends fairly close to the hole at this part here, so I'm going to let go here. And then left click on the exact same point and drag it sort of at an angle because the bottom part over here is more angled. And now that we have our outline, we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to fill it in. So just pick a brush size that you're comfortable with. Change it from line to space. And we're going to start filling this in. Just be careful again not to go over your guideline. Don't go over the edge, basically. Make sure. See, I just went over the edge. I wasn't being careful, so it's pretty easy to make that mistake. And then we should be pretty much done with this window part. And as usual, just check around, make sure you've painted the whole thing, because some of these little inside parts that weren't really visible from the other angle, you want to get those too, just to make sure the color stays consistent. Unless you want a different color, maybe you want a different color. I mean, it's really up to you if you want something different right here. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, it is a little darker right there, so you could make the inside a little darker. We could actually do that. So I'm gonna Control Z these real quick, get that darker color back, and really the darker color is just what was it? This one we were using, I think. So now what we want to do is select the inner parts that we want to have that color, which would be like this maybe, or actually maybe just these triangles here. We'll just add in these triangles. To have that darker color. Take a look at it. It's not too bad. So I'm going to just continue doing that, making sure I have all the triangles the same color. And the reason I'm selecting like these middle pieces is just to make sure the transition is clean between the triangle and this. I want to make sure the color is just consistent. This actually seems to be a slightly lighter color than the one I was using before. I don't remember if this is exactly the one I was using. Maybe it was, but it's not too big of an issue. So there's that. It looks actually pretty nice. Not too shabby. You could change the color of some of the other parts too if you wanted to add an extra shading effect, but that's okay. That's going to be good for now. So the next thing is this little gray thing. It's a lighter color than maybe this is, but darker than like the one we have for that. So it's darker than this, but lighter than that. So we want to do something like this, maybe. Go back to the face selection, press Alt-H. And we want this whole thing. It might be easier to get this in edit mode, so I'm going to go to edit mode, face select. And I'm going to hold Alt, right click to get this whole edge loop. Hold Alt and right click to get, whoop, I did the wrong thing, so Control Z, Alt, Shift, right click this, Alt Shift still, and just keep selecting around. That actually got the whole thing there. I don't want that, so I'm going to do Control Z. And I guess I'll probably just select these one by one by holding Shift and right clicking on each piece. This part, I guess, is actually technically mirrored, so we don't really need both sides of it, but to be safe, I'm just going to make sure both sides are completely selected. I think this is part of it as well. Oh yeah, there's some interfaces down here that we need to make sure we select. So these faces here, probably easier, just hold Alt and right click to get these. I think that's all of it. So I'm going to press Shift H. Hopefully that's everything. Switch to texture paint. Make sure your face selection is active so that this is the only thing showing. I'm going to change my brush size to 50 and just paint. And as usual, make sure you change your view so you get all the pieces painted instead of just some of them. But if you're just testing a color, if you want to just see how it'll look, you can just get out of this real quick and that's how that's going to look. Not too bad. I don't know if it should be a little bit lighter maybe. Probably a little bit lighter than that. So this one's it's actually going to be lighter than this part, I guess, but I want to see how this looks. I guess that looks fine. You can choose a different color if you want. Colors aren't really, like if your colors are different than mine, it's not going to make a difference really. It's just whatever you think looks nice. So don't feel obligated to follow my color scheme. I'm actually going to do multiple paint jobs for this car, so and if you want to, feel free to do the same once we're done with this. Like go back again, start over, and I'm actually going to set it up so that you can do that really easily. Just to practice painting and whatever else you want to do. So that's most of the back. One thing I did think about changing was maybe making this little piece a darker color. I'm not sure I'm going to do that though. We'll see how this all pans out later on. So for the mirrors here, this part's always going to be a black plastic. It doesn't change. The only carbon fiber part's this part that's orange, if it is carbon fiber. If it's not, it's just going to be the body color like it is there. So we need this piece to be black. So go to face selection, Alt H to unhide. Select one of these faces, press L, Shift H, and it needs to be a black color, basically, like this. And I just realized I didn't save the other color, which is fine. I'll show you how to get the color back if you want it. If you lose it and you want it back. So I'm going to press Alt H once I have the whole thing painted. Looks nice. So we didn't save this color. What do we do? Well, to select a color, there's a different method to select a color. You can press and hold on the S key, and you'll get this little eyedropper. And then when you release it, it changes your color to the color that was underneath your eyedropper. So we can just press the plus key to save. It's almost exactly the same color as this other one. That's alright though. Do 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 do. I was just checking this side intake thing, which is this. So it's just the body color. I wasn't sure if it was only the body color or black or something like that. So let's actually paint, we'll do some more easy stuff. We'll, let me see, okay, I'm still in face selection, so make sure you're in face selection, and I'm going to start selecting this wiper blade. Just select one and keep pressing L on the different pieces that are not selected yet until you have all the pieces, basically. If you need to, go to edit mode, press period to zoom in on your current selection. Make sure you get all the inner parts too. Just press L once you've hovered over them. So you want to get all these bottom parts as well. Everything that has to do with the wiper should be selected. And once it is, we can just press Shift H, go back to texture paint, choose a dark color and start painting. If you're having trouble filling everything in like in this, it's probably going to be difficult to get rid of all these white spots again. It's going to be similar to the center of the car where we had to go in and add some bleed to it, but we may not actually have to bleed any of it. We just have to go to where the wipers are over here. I'm not even really sure where they are, to be honest, on this. So if we go to edit mode, we can probably see where they are. If I change this to view, so that's where the wipers are. Change it back to paint and go back to texture paint. It's basically like up here is part of it, this is part of it, so I'm just going to paint over it until all those white spots go away. I'm going to make it bleed a little bit beyond the faces again, just to get rid of all that, because it's gonna not look so nice if we don't do this. It was this piece as well, I think, and maybe this one on the right, I think. Yep. I may have accidentally painted on, yeah, I painted on this part a little, so I gotta Control Z that. So that's that. Now we have a nice, mostly nice. There's a few more pieces that need some extra love over here. I'm not sure where those are, so I'm going to go back to edit mode, switch it to view, zoom in on it to get a better look. Alright, so it's this piece here, and there's one down there somewhat. So I'm going to go to paint again, switch this to texture paint. It's this piece over here. Make sure it's got all the color it needs. Should be good. And then this piece down here. And that looks like it fixed most of the white spots. There's one right there. Another one slightly under it, which I probably can't get to. I'm surprised there's still some spots because like I painted over the whole thing here. Pretty good, I guess. So that's gonna be it for the wiper blade. Just double check, make sure you don't have any spots that are still needing some color. I was just making sure that this was supposed to be like, because it's pretty much a black color here. I just wanted to make sure it was basically that way, and it pretty much is. Yeah, it's a really dark color. We can change it later if we want it to be a bit lighter. I'm not really totally satisfied with how it looks right there with being almost totally black, but we'll live with it for now since we just put a decent amount of time into it. So when I colored this front splitter before, I actually didn't account for this mesh. So just be aware that we have to make this mesh at a different point, and we just need a solid color for this part until we get to customizing it a bit more where it's carbon fiber instead. So we want a nice light gray or lighter gray, and we want to select the front. So I went to face select, Alt H to unhide, select on the front, press L, and yep, it's the whole front part here. So the only thing we want to deselect is this mesh part, which would be basic, and the lights as well, because we have the lights selected right now. We don't want the lights selected. So I'm going to go to edit mode. It's going to be a little easier to see in edit mode. And I'm just going to hold shift and start deselecting all the parts we don't want. I'm going to press Z and then C for circle select. Middle mouse to deselect these pieces here. I think that's probably going to be basically what we want, except we don't want this front part here. So I'm going to press Alt and Shift, right click on this, and do the same for this bottom one. Didn't deselect all of it, so I'm just going to deselect it manually by holding Shift. And I forgot this isn't mirrored, so I got to do the same exact thing over here with C for circle select, middle mouse to deselect, Z for wireframe, of course, if you want to get into wireframe like I just did. I think that's the same as what I've got over here, basically. Except for this part, well, that's pretty good, I guess, because there is like some of this part is also gray as well. So that's going to be good for now. We'll see how it looks and I'll make changes if I need to. So I'm going to go back to texture paint. I've already got my color that I want to try out. You can do Alt H if you want, or Shift H I mean. I'm going to take a quick look at it just before I get all the details. That actually looks pretty good. I like this color. I don't even remember if it's the same as this one or not, so I'm going to save it. It is the exact same one, so I'm just going to delete this one by selecting it and pressing minus. But I like this color, so I'm going to go ahead and fill in all the white spots here that are being a little bit of a pain to actually paint. I'm gonna figure out where this is on, I think it's this right here. Yeah, it's this right here. And go ahead and just fill in some of these spots. You don't want to fill in all of them because remember this is that mesh part that we don't want to have as this gray color. You just want to fill in the stuff that should be filled in. Use F to shrink the size of your brush and get these minor imperfections out of here. And just go through the whole thing and make sure that you didn't really miss any spots like these, I think, are supposed to be. They might not actually be. They may not have supposed to be colored, but it's alright. Not sure where this is because it really needs yeah, my screencast keys just died. It's alright, I still have this one. I'm not really sure where this is because it's giving us problems. I think it's right here. Maybe not. I'm going to check real quick in edit mode which piece this actually is. That is interesting. What is up with this? Okay, it's kind of like hidden. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. But I want to see where this is, so I'm going to switch this to view. Press period to zoom in on it. There it is. Alright, so this is the part that's giving us problems. So we're going to go back to paint, switch back to texture paint, zoom out some because I needed to zoom out some, quite a bit actually, and then find that part which is here. And that's gone, but now we have like this, this weird jagged edge. It's not a good sign. That's okay though, I guess, for now. It doesn't look too bad in the rest of the spots, so I think it's okay. We're just gonna have to go back and paint over this piece. I probably should just Control Z it, because it's going to be a problem. It's actually in the part that's masked. It's not supposed to be. So I'm just going to press Control Z a few times, or a lot of times. See if I can get rid of that, because it's not supposed to be there. Alright, so we're back at the beginning. That's alright, because that really needed to be gone. I'm going to press A couple times to select everything. Well, actually, I'm just going to hide these. I'm going to select these individually and hide them, because those are the ones I didn't want. And the same over here, I want to hide that. Hide this. And we'll try this again. I'm going to make my brush bigger. A to select everything. Just start painting. And the reason I did that and made like a big deal about it is because this is like the alpha channel. This has the alpha channel. Any of this alpha part that we paint over is going to basically paint over the base color. And that part of the car that was right up here is supposed to be the base color. So it would make changing the base color more difficult later on, because we would have to hand paint the base color onto that area, because we colored it over with the wrong color basically. So it's a lot more difficult to fix than we really would want to deal with later on. We really just want it to be as simple as changing the base color and be done with it. We don't want to add any complex steps to changing the color later on. So we just have a minor inconvenience now instead of, you know, like a real pain in the butt later when you're trying to go through and make 30 different color cars just because you want to. Having to change that on every single car would be, you know, less than ideal basically. This part's giving me a little trouble. I'm not sure where it is on the UV unwrap here. So I'm going to check it out with edit mode right here and here. Switch this to view. Press period to zoom in. There it is. Back to texture paint. Switch this to paint. Zoom out. Is it actually this part? I don't even know. Just gonna make my brush smaller so I don't paint over anything I'm not supposed to, and make sure I'm not painting on anything I'm not supposed to. I don't think I am, but I don't even know like where that piece is, to be honest. So if I zoom in, maybe I'll figure out where, because I still don't know where that connection is, even though I just looked at it. It's over here somewhere, because I just saw something disappear. There we go. So that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Took a bit of work. It's alright. Sometimes it is a bit of work. It's just, you know, get through it, get it done. No problem. You could paint the bottom as well if you wanted to. The same color. Strangely, didn't we paint this bottom black? I thought we did. Doesn't seem like it's black. Anyway, I'm gonna do Alt H, unhide everything. Were we on the wrong texture layer here? I don't think so. So I'm going to do it again. Just select the bottom. We did this, right? Yeah, we did this. We definitely did this. So I selected one, pressed L, Shift H. Why did that change color? I have no idea. Anyway, I'm going to paint this all using the same color. I'm not going to be too picky because changing this is really easy. It's as simple as picking a new color and doing exactly what we're doing right now. Painting over it, and then you're done. You could make it a darker color if you wanted, because like it looks a little strange back here where it's this black and then it's a lighter color for no reason. It does sort of fit in with the front, having it like that. So we could even do a mix, just like go back to our tools, select this darker color, go back to this selection thing, face selection, and make the back of it like a black. And then maybe like select like these faces here and just paint on those and like have a gradient sort of. I'm going to use C for circle select and get these because I want to make it a consistent color, and do the same here. Just press C, circle select these, right click when you're done to get rid of the circle selection thing. And I'm going to use middle mouse to deselect those because I got more than I wanted. I'm just trying to see how this is going to look, like if it's going to look okay, if I like it. I'm not really sure if this is what I want, but I'm going to see what it looks like if I just go ahead and make the rest of this black. I think I like that better, so I'm just going to leave the whole thing with the black color. So we made quite a few changes already. And where did our... Oh man, are we going to have to paint that again? Why did we lose that? I don't understand why we lost like some of our work here. And this is not black anymore. What is going on? That's really unfortunate, actually. Interesting. So I'm just going to go to image, save as image, before we lose any more of this, because like, that's alright, it's good practice. We'll go back and we'll do this again, that's fine. And then go back to save. Like, we lost our window, it's gone. We lost this thing, that's gone. And this isn't black anymore. We lost the bottom. I don't know what happened, actually, to be totally honest with you. I don't think switching between object mode or whatever should do it. Switching between the slots shouldn't do anything. How did we get rid of all of our texture stuff? I have no idea. So real quick, I'm just going to make this. Go back to face select, Alt H. I'm going to make this black again. Like, I'm going to do some of the simple stuff and then we'll do the difficult stuff later. Shift H, paint this black. That's kind of it's interesting. I don't know what happened there. But that just goes to show that you should probably save more often than what I'm doing, because I've never really had problems with it before, but I'm going to do Alt H. But for some reason it's deleting some of our work here, and it's not good news. So we really should be saving more. Save this one. But the good news is we actually still have that curve for our window here. Like if we go to top view by pressing 7 and we go down, choose this to curve, And now you want to just hold shift and middle mouse to reposition your curve. And I'm going to need to zoom in to make it smaller. So we can still redo this actually. I might as well just do it real quick. So a little less explanation this time. I'm going to put this back on space because we got to do the whole thing. I already showed you how to do this, so just make sure you get the window. Press L to get this other piece as well, Shift H. Choose a color. It's probably like, what was it, this one? I have no idea. I don't even remember, to be honest, what color we used the first time. Check to see if it's too dark or not. That's fine, I guess. Switch to, which one was our window? This one maybe? I don't know. And we're going to press 7. Top view. And for space, we're going to choose not line, curve instead. Zoom it in, position it by using shift and middle mouse. This is why it's nice to use a curve, because now we can just change this to 4 pixels and do draw curve. There we go. It's back again magically. And actually I need to change this to space. Make it a bigger brush. Maybe a little bigger than that. Maybe a little smaller because I was going over the edge there. It's still going over the edge. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's this this version of Blender that's just really messing up with the texturing or whatever, because I haven't had this problem where I keep losing my textures, although I don't usually do them this way. I don't usually have 2 different texture layers. This is the first time I've done 2 different texture layers, and I'm not sure if that has something to do with it. It might. But I'm done with that part. We wanted to use a different color for this part. So I'm going to make this 4 pixels again. Change it to line this time. Back to top view with 7 on the number pad. We're going to make our line by left clicking, dragging. That's too light, too dark of a color. So I just did Control Z to undo that paint stroke, and I'm going to make a new line. I'm going to save this, because I don't even think we saved it last time, the color. And then we want to make the brush a bit bigger and start filling in all the details. Except we probably want to change this to space again. And if you didn't have to do this twice, you're lucky. It's unfortunate, but it is, like I said, it's good practice. You just get used to using all the different tools like the curve thing and space and line. I think there's even a way to make the line completely straight, like if you hold shift or something. I'll try it real quick. If you left click and then hold shift, maybe, nope, control. I think, oh, it's alt, I guess. It'll make it straight, but you only get like 15-degree increments here, you can't really, I think it's 15 degrees, no, 45 degrees, because this would be 90 or 0, 45, 90. So you just hold Alt and that'll make a straight line, which you could use like right here. Instead of doing it by hand, you could have just done a straight line across here to make this a little fatter, but I didn't, so it's alright. Then we did a darker color on the inside. I'm not even sure I like, nah, it looks fine. Not gonna complain after doing it twice. We'll do, okay, we did save the color. We want a different color for the highlights that are on the inside. We just did these triangles and this other part. Make sure you get all the triangles on both sides, as well as the center part. And then just start painting. Looks good, but I noticed we didn't actually complete this down here, so I gotta make sure I select it and fix it. The rest looks fine, so that's good. Before we lose any of that, and we didn't lose anything else yet, so I'm gonna save this image, save as image, details, save it. Excellent. So now the Blender gods can't come in and destroy our work. I'm going to save this as well. And I'm going to fix this last part. So I've switched to face select again, press Alt H, unhide everything, and actually, weird, strange. We need to go back and fix this too, so I guess I didn't do a good job on that one, so I might as well press L to select all of it, press H, or never mind, press Alt H. L to select all this, Shift H. Make sure you painted all of it, because I apparently did not paint all of it. Alt H to unhide. Looks good. This other piece now, we selected it in edit mode, so I'll do the same again. Alt and right click to get that edge, Alt and Shift, right click to get this edge. Start selecting one by one by holding Shift and right clicking. It's a bit of a slow method if you're not really used to it, but better than accidentally selecting something. Like there, I don't even know what I selected right there. Oh, it's these interfaces. I forget about these ones I can't see. So I was just using Alt and Shift to select those because it's a whole loop. Same on this one, Alt and Shift. Should be everything. Shift H to hide everything except that. Go to Texture Paint. Choose a color. I don't even remember. This one maybe. That's probably too dark. Just gonna take a look at it. Doesn't look bad though, so if you want it to be a darker color like that, that's fine, but I think it's more, it's one of these, I think, was one of these lighter colors. That looks pretty decent, so I'm gonna just finish this up. But the beauty of this is once we get to like the important parts, once we get this details texture done, we can just really simply change the base color of the car and we can instantly have like 10 different looking cars, and we can set up like a base color for our we can set up a details texture, that has the carbon fiber and one that doesn't, and then you can just make a whole bunch of different combinations pretty simply. Looks like that's pretty much all of it. I think I got it all, except, well, there's more down there. There's always more, even when you think you're done. A lot of times this painting doesn't make it easy on you. It's alright though, because some of these faces are just hiding just enough to avoid your paintbrush. But I think I got, see, it's still white right here. There we go. I think I got it. I think we're good. Looks nice. Save it again. We're going to do a lot more saving now that we just lost everything. Or mostly everything. But that should be good for this part. I mean, that's most of the details done, or a lot of the details done. So make sure you save this image. Go to your slot, make sure you save the base image if you need to. We didn't change it, but it's always good to check, make sure that it doesn't need to be saved. Again, it'll have that star if it needs to be saved. And then make sure you also save your main Blender file by going here and saving it. So now this is all saved, we're not going to lose it again. So we can just start working on the rest of it.